Hello everyone, and welcome back to Revit Snippets. Great tips you can learn in just a few minutes. This video is brought to you by RV Deep Clean. Over 40 ways to clean and downsize your Revit model, all in one place. Get your free copy today by using the link in this video description. Let's see today how we can quickly find and delete unused scope boxes from the model. For example, I have a model with 4 scope boxes. These 3 ones on the left are in use because if I go to this plan view, you can see that's first one in use. The second one is also in use, and the last one also in use here. This final box is actually obsolete, so we should find a way to quickly find it and delete it. Sounds a bit trivial in this case, but in a big Revit model, you can have not just 1, but 10 or 20 unused scope boxes in sometimes very hard to see places. The good news is, no matter how big the model is, just open the Dynamo script I will show how to build today, run it, and all the unused scope boxes will be identified and removed for you, just like what is done to this box here in the open space. If you just want to run it and have no time to recreate this yourself, there's another link in the video description that takes you to where you can download this script directly and run it whenever you want to. By the way, if you are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe now, because we do tutorials like this every single week. Okay, let's begin. We can start now by setting the scene for our script. This is now just a blank example model. I will now create a few scope boxes. So if I go to View now, I can now do Scope Box. And how about we start with this section there. So this building wing, I want to maybe look at it individually. That's why I need this scope box. And then we can do another one down here for this longer wing. And the next one for the middle section of the building. And now just to make a scope box that is unused and we can delete later on using Dynamo, let's now do another scope box just right here out in the open space. That's good. Moving on, we can now make use of these 3 boxes. This is important, so later on when we run the script in Dynamo, it will check if the scope boxes are in use, so we actually need to put these to use first. So if I now go to this other floor plan here, yep, and let's see, this scope box is called scope box number 5. Funny name, but let's use it anyway. Let's go to View Properties and choose scope box 5 from here. And now you know it's in use, because now the view is cropped to the scope box's extent. Let's do the same for the second scope box, for level 2 in this case. Let's change this now to this scope box's name, which is scope box 7. I can go here and choose 7 from there. So now the second scope box is now in use. Let's do the same for the third one now, on the level 3 plan. The box name is now scope box number 6, so let's do the same name selection there. Okay, we will not do the same for this other scope box called scope box number 8, because we want to keep this as unused and later on tell Dynamo to pick it up and delete it for us. Okay, let's now save the model, and we can go to Manage, Open Dynamo. Here we go. If I now put this just to the side, like that, and kick things off by starting a new definition. Let's change this to manual mode. We don't want to crash Revit anytime soon. And now for actually defining the script logic, let's make a new note here. I will right click and search for Python. Python script from string. It has 2 input ports. One is for the text of the script you want to run, and the second input is for anything you want to fit into it. You can also make more input ports like this, or reduce the number of them like this. For now, I want to get in here the actual text of the Python script. So let's go for file read. Read text from file. This note here requires a file object that I can go and make from file from path. Yep, just connect the file output to here. And the string from the file will be read. We can then pass it to the Python script. Let's make sure everything is nicely aligned on the top there. And to begin reading the file, we need to give it a path. Let's go for string. Actually, no, let's go for file path. Choose this node here. It's handy because you can then click on this button on it to browse to a file. Let's first connect it to the rest of the nodes, like so. And then if I just click run now, it's going to give an error because there's no file being specified here yet. So how can we get this file into the script? Super easy. We just have to write the Python script itself in an external editor. Save the file from that editor, and then in here we can just browse to the file using this button here. My editor of choice happens to be Visual Studio Code, so let's bring it up now. If you are new to using Python in Dynamo and to using Visual Studio Code to write Python script for Dynamo, make sure to go down to this video description where I will include a link to my basic tutorial on how to make use of those tools. In the same video, you will also get an explanation of this Python script template that I have in place already here. It contains just a few import statements, kind of a skeleton framework for your code, just to import the appropriate and required libraries for the Python script to run in Dynamo. For now, let's assume you have gone through that video, and now we can start writing the actual logic of finding and deleting the unused scope boxes. To do it, we actually need to perform an inversion. We need to firstly find all the scope boxes that are in use. So we need to find this box, this one, and this other one there. Next, we will collect all the scope boxes from the model. And then in that list of scope boxes, we will find anything that is not in use. And that should give us boxes like this one here, which we can finally delete. Alright, so let's begin with step number 1, getting the scope boxes that are currently in use. I will now make an empty list to store them. Let's call this one box ID integers in use. And now we want to collect all the views from the model. So let's do for view in filtered elements collector. Apply this to the document object. Make sure the class you want to look at is view. And add this other statement below where element is not element type. This is because we only want to look at the view instances, not the view types. Next, for each view now, in this for loop, we need to look up the scope box that it has. If a view doesn't have a scope box, it will simply return nothing, and we can just continue to the next view. To do this, let's make a new variable now called box param. Get the view in it, and then get the parameter from it. It's going to be a built-in parameter, and the name will be viewer volume of interest crop. Now here we need to handle the views that actually don't have this parameter. This parameter, by the way, is the one I'm looking at right here. For example, for this view, the parameter we're trying to get is this, the one called scope box. So if a view doesn't have that parameter, we want to then skip over it to proceed with the rest. Otherwise, the loop will return an error. So to avoid this error, let's do a conditional statement here. If not box param, then continue. We can then proceed with getting the element ID of the scope box that the view is using, if any. Let's make a new variable for this. I'll call this BID for box ID. And the value I can get from box param as element ID. What it means here is, if a view has a scope box applied to it, then BID will be a valid element ID that we can then use to select the box and delete it if we want to, or actually keep it in this case. However, if a view doesn't have a scope box applied, then BID will be an invalid element ID object. And in the case, we want to skip over it too. So let's do here a second conditional statement. If BID equal element ID dot invalid element ID, we also want to continue to the next item in the for loop. So once the loop has passed that point and get down to here, we know this is a view with a scope box applied. In that case, the box is definitely in use, so we want to then append this element ID to the list of IDs we have defined up there. I will then copy the name, paste it down here, and choose append. we will append bid dot integer value. So with this for loop completed, we have in here all the elements IDs that relate to boxes in use. So for this particular model, we should have in this list here 3 elements IDs for this box, this one, and this other one. Let's check it out, shall we? I can now copy this name again and paste it to the out variable. I can now do Ctrl S to save the script. Go back to here, go back to Dynamo, and click on Browse to select the Python script that I saved. It's this one, delete unused scope boxes. Let's make sure they all align nicely as before. And now let's see what's coming out from running the script. I will save it again and run it. There's an error straight away. Let's see what it's about. So false is not defined. Oh, actually, this is a common case. We need to select not the dyn file, but the Python script. So in this case, this one there. Run this again. And here we go. Just like I promised, we have now 3 element IDs of these 3 boxes that are in use. Next step, we can now look up and find and retrieve the element ID of this other box so we can delete it. Back to Python now. We can create a new list of element IDs. Let's call this one IDs to delete. Just to make it clear that we will delete anything put into here. And now we can start collecting all the scope boxes from the model. Let's go for a box in another filtered elements collector. On the same model there, DOC. But this time we do off category and supply a built-in category called volume of interest. And just like before, we will include where element is not element type to get only the instances, not the types. Next step, we want to check if this box here is actually in use, and the way to do it is with another if statement. Let's do if here and do box.id.integer value in box ID integers in use. If that's the case, then we need to skip over this box because it's in use. So let's do continue now. If that didn't happen, if the skipping wasn't done, then the box was definitely not in use. So we can now do IDs to delete dot add. That reminds me, actually, we need to create this list in a different way because we want to later on use it for deleting stuff. So it has to be done by list element ID and then the brackets like that. Now we can go down here and choose box.id. There we go. Let's now check it out. If I now see this IDs to delete list in the output, save it, back to here, run the script. It's going to give me 1 element ID. When I go back to Revit and do select elements by ID, if I use the same ID here, so 437704, you can see that's the right box to select. So far so good. Let's go back to Python and delete it. Now, to delete something from the model, we need to modify it. And to modify the model, we need a transaction. There are several ways to make a transaction, but the safest way is this. Let's use with tr equal new transaction. On this document, call it delete unused scope boxes. Looks like it's not liking it because there's a yellow line there. Maybe I need to do this as tr. Yep, that's better. We can then try tr.start to begin the transaction and then do delete like this and then do tr.commit. Here we go. Let's save the Python script now. Go back to here and run the script. You can see now it's gone. That little unused scope box. And also when I go to the undo stack up here, we can see delete unused scope boxes has taken place. That's perfect. Anyway, the script isn't complete because of one thing I want to show you right now. So let's undo this deletion. The reason I want to show you something else here is this. Views are not the only thing that use scope boxes. If I now go to maybe a section like this one here, and maybe let's try to bring up this scope box slightly, and also uncrop the view. If I now select these levels, these two, I can also apply to them a scope box from their properties. What's the name of this one? Number 6, scope of 6. So let's do the assignment like this. And you can see they are now scaled back to roughly the extent of the scope box. Of course, with some extension on this end and this other end. The same goes for grids. If I now get these three and use the scope box property, give it to scope of 6 again, you can see now they actually extends according to the scope box they applies to. So if we just check scope boxes in use based on checking the views, we'll be missing out some scope boxes that are used by levels and grids. So let's fix that. Let's go back to the plan view now, and then back to Dynamo. What needs to happen is this list of integers in use needs to be bigger. So now let's check for levels and grids. We can start from creating a grid filter as an element category filter. Give it a built-in category now, which is OST grids. And now I can do the second filter for level. This time passing into built-in category, the one for levels. This one. Next step, let's create a category filter here as a logical OR filter. And we give it the grid filter, then the level filter. What it does is it will pass any object that are either grids or levels. We're gonna make use of this combined filter like this. Let's do for element in, another filtered element collector. And on this filter, let's do where passes. This combined filter there. Here we go. From here, it's very similar to what we do to process the views. Actually, let me copy these up here, down to here. Now we can start making some adjustments. Instead of this parameter name, let's do datum volume of interest. So if it's no, we can also continue the loop. If there's a parameter but it has no value, also continue. And then finally, we append it to the list of IDs in use. Looking good. I can now save the script. Go back to Dynamo now. And then run it. This time actually, just to confirm it's working for grids and levels, let's do a small change in the model. If I select this scope box number 6, let's see which one in plan view is scope box 6. It's this one. So for the third floor plan, let's say it should not use scope box number 6 anymore. So now, when I go back to Dynamo, if I run the script now, it should still delete just one scope box, because if I go back to the main level now, this one and this one, they are in use by the views. This scope box number 6 is in use by levels and grids, so only this one still is unused. Let's close the script and rerun just to confirm this. Yes, only one object is deleted. Well, actually I was wrong. It deleted the one being used by levels and grids too. So let's see what's gone wrong there. Let me undo the deletion now. Back to the Python script. Oh yes, this is what happens when you copy and paste things. Remember, up here we were checking the view, but here we are doing the same thing. It should be element, not view. Element for elements, grids or levels. So save it, back to here, run it again. And yes, now it's working. Only one item was deleted, and that's the only unused scope box in the open space. Now to complete the script, we want to make it self-contained, so it doesn't have to read text from a file. It should run on its own without referencing anything external. To do so, let's go back to here, press Ctrl A, Ctrl C to copy. Go back to here, make the proper Python node, and place it here. Double click to open it. And now in here, I can just do Ctrl A, Ctrl V. Save it, close it down, delete the rest of the script. All the other nodes can now go. Undo the deletion just so we can do it again now. Save the script, and now we run this. As you can see, everything happened just like before, but now the script doesn't rely on the external file I have in Visual Studio Code anymore. It's a completely standalone solution you can run again anytime on any other Revit file. However, if you look at this as a way to reduce the model file size, it may not be enough because there are many different things in a model that need to be cleaned up to reduce the file size. And scope boxes, usually, if you just clean them up and not the rest of things you can do, it's not going to be enough to make the Revit file smaller. A better way is actually using a Revit plugin like RV Deep Clean. It has more than 40 different methods for deep cleaning your Revit model. And one of them, you guessed it, is deleting unused scope boxes. So this checkbox here, it does exactly the same thing that the script we made does. Actually, let me try to undo this and run the plugin to prove that to you. So clean model. Here we go, it's done it. So apart from the unused scope boxes, RV Deep Clean has cleaned up a lot more obsolete items from your model. For example, one of the options selected was to delete any views not on sheets. And as you can see, I have now much fewer views because those not on sheets have been cleaned up for me. And that's also why we have now just one scope box. Because this one up here and this one in the middle, they were used by views not on sheets, so when the view is gone, so should the scope box that I use. The only scope box remain is this one below, because we still have grids and levels in the model that referencing it. We also get a report at the end to show exactly what items have been cleaned up. So you can see for yourself, if I go down to here, we have those 3 scope boxes already deleted so we can have the smallest Revit file size possible. So if you want to try this plugin to make your Revit file quick and small, just go down to this video description and use the link there to get your free copy today. About the Dynamo script, if you just want to run it and have no time to recreate this yourself, there's another link in the video description that takes you to where you can download this script directly and run it whenever you want to. For now, enjoy cleaning up unused scope boxes in your model with RV Deep Clean and Dynamo, and I'll see you in the next lesson.